Hello, everyone. This is Patrick Kulpok. Welcome on podcast Polderownia. With me is my co-host.
Hello, it's Krzysztof Dobasiewicz, co-host of Polderownia podcast.
And we are very happy to be with you guys. This is our first time in English, basically. Our Polish podcast is until now was record only in Polish. Polderownia is a Polish podcast about Dutch politics, Dutch culture. And this is like this first special episode because we have a special guest. Why we are speaking English, not Polish. We try to make some transcription or subtitles because this video also will be on YouTube. So we're going to do this also if you don't speak English, but you speak Polish. We're going to try to do something you can understand this interview. But before we show our guest, we're just gonna say we are very happy to be with you. Thank you for the numbers. Thank you for followers. Like the last few weeks was very good time for our podcast. Like our numbers score, like everything was very going up. And if you think our job is good and you want to have a more information about the Dutch media, about Dutch politics, about Dutch culture, you can support us. There will be a link for buy coffee too. You can spend some amount of money for our virtual coffee. Shows that our job is necessary and what we are doing is good. So. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. So with us, first time in Polderownia and first time as English-speaking guest and also Dutch guest is Ines Kostić, number 2 on the Partij voor Dieren, Partij for Animals list for the next election will be on 22 of November. Hello, Ines. Thank you to join us today.
Hi, glad to be here. It's an honor to be your first English guest.
Maybe I assume the Dutch people they are listening us, they probably knows you because you are number 2 literally after the leader Esther Oudenhand. But yeah, could you introduce yourself? Like, because if I'm correct, you are not originally from the Netherlands, but you are from Bosnia and Herzegovina. So what happened in your life that you basically end in the Dutch politics?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's been a whole ride for me. I was born in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and there was a war in the 90s, which we fled with my parents and my brother. We were there until 1995, so we went through the war. But eventually, my parents decided to go to the Netherlands because my father got wounded a couple of times. So, they had this idea, well, this is too much risk. It's time to give our children more of a chance for a new life. So they decided to go to the Netherlands. And I just remember being a 10-year-old, knowing that the Netherlands is underwater. I was just thinking, how are we going to do this? How do people live underwater? So I came to the Netherlands and everything was just really strange to me, very flat, obviously. Yeah, as you know, also in Poland and in Bosnia, we have mountains. There was everything flat and everything was so organized, like really clean, which was scary to me. I just really quickly learned the language because we quickly got a house in a small village in the north of the Netherlands. And, you were then the only stranger in town. So you then really quickly learned the language. And I just got to school and study. And I don't know, I always wanted to change the world in a positive way. And I was always focused on human rights, I guess because of my background, because what I experienced in war. I just had this strong urge to create more justice in the world and more compassion. I mean, I don't know if you're listeners and you know more about the Bosnian War. It's very complex, but to make it short, for different ethnic groups living there, which have been living there peacefully for a long time, and then suddenly they started killing each other. So, and the more complex thing is that I was born in Bosnia, but I'm both Croatian, Serbian, and Bosniak. So I have it all in me. My father is half Serbian, half Croatian. My mother is Bosniak. And for me, it was incomprehensible that these people would fight each other because we basically share the same coffee, the same food, the same history, actually the same language. So there was no logical reason for me why these people would fight. So yeah, that's kind of a lesson that I took from the war, is that you should always look at the humanity in each other and never forget that we are all living beings, just, looking for a safe place and a future. And that's what connects us all. So that's what I took to the Netherlands and, started working with.
I have a question. How do you remember your adaptation in the Netherlands after you came? Was it like hard to just learn the language, like learn the new customs, or did you have it very easy? Like you didn't have to pay that much attention. It all came naturally to you.
Yeah, well, my luck was that I was a 10-year-old, and kids can learn stuff very quickly. But I did have to get used to some things. Like I remember first time visiting our neighbor, and this neighbor was very friendly. But we were sitting at a table, and then she said, like, "Okay, do you want a cookie?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course, I want a cookie." And then she went to somewhere in the kitchen. She came with a box. She opened the box. There were cookies there. So she, handed out cookies, one each to every person on the table. Then she closed the box and put it back in the kitchen. I was like, this would never happen in Bosnia. When
that
guests
is
come,
very Dutch, yes, indeed. It's literally nothing to do with the Slavic culture, yeah.
Exactly, you know it. When people come to our Bosnian place, there's a lot of food and drinks, and it's just on the table there. Everybody can grab it. So that was something I had to get used to. But I learned the language quickly, even though it's difficult, because I was young and because I was just very interested in languages. And I must say that when we came to the Netherlands for the first time, you of course go to this how do you say, like, refugee camp center, refugee center. And there is very, very little schooling there. So there was sort of a school, but it was basically nothing. So what I did is just get a free dictionary from Bosnian to Dutch. And I just started learning random words. That helped me more than the school they had there at the refugee center. And then when I moved to the little town, then of course, at a real school, I got help from local volunteers, a Dutch mother, who helped me learn the language a bit quicker. So yeah, that went smoothly. But the whole culture thing, it was strange to me.
So if I'm correct, basically your parents and your brother and you didn't speak at all any other language before you flew from Bosnia to Netherlands, or you like English, for example?
Yeah, my parents know English on like a basic level, and I knew English a bit as well because of cartoons. We watched Cartoon Network at that moment sometimes, and it was in English, subtitled in Bosnian. So as a child, you learned English. I know that when I went to the Dutch school, as a 10, 11 year old, I knew English better than my classmates. So yeah, sometimes watching cartoons is good.
Yeah, this is basically different because in Poland they are still making this is called lektor in Polish. So it's basically there's one person who is reading the entire text, the entire subtitles, and it's put on the original voice, original track is a little bit going down, and the Polish is on the put on this, so you can still hear the original voices in the background, but it doesn't help you to learn the language, because in the Netherlands, if something is in English, they have a subtitles.
Yeah. No, I like that last system because you can learn more of languages, so it's better.
So I have a question. When did you start to get involved in politics? Like, was it on the local level or maybe in high school? What made you interested in politics, and which topics, maybe besides human rights, were important for you when you realized that politics is important?
And one more question: where did you grow up, Ines, in the Netherlands? Because you mentioned just a village, but where exactly? In which province or which village?
Yeah. So to answer that last question first, when I was 10, we first came to the refugee center that was in The Hague, a big city. We were there only for a couple of months. We were lucky because I know that I met children like me who were there for already 2 years waiting for decisions to be made. But we got a decision really quickly for some reason. And then we got a house in Niekerk, which is a small town in the north of the Netherlands. And I don't know if you know it, relatively close to the city of Groningen. And
so province Groningen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I lived there, and we when I went to middle school, I went for 1 year to Groningen, and then after that we moved as a family to Emmen, which is in Drenthe. So we got a taste of that as well. So most of my teenage years were spent there. And after that, my parents basically moved to Almere, which is Flevoland. And I was there for a very short time, but I quickly moved on my own to the city of Groningen to study there. Then there again, my journey of basically discovering myself and also discovering what I actually wanted to do with the capacities that I have. So to come back to the first question, how did I discover politics? Like I said, for me, it was always important to contribute to a more positive, compassionate world. But I was mostly focused on human rights because I saw a lot of, wars and injustice. So I went to a lot of protests. I wrote for Amnesty International, etc. And I knew that politics was important in the sense that everything we do is politics, right? It touches upon all of our lives. When I went to Groningen to study, I studied international relations, which is basically international politics. So I studied that for a reason, that I wanted to change the policies. Although I always thought that I couldn't really make a positive change if I went into politics myself as a politician. I was always thinking, okay, I'll have to work for an NGO or the European Union or something like that. That's a much more efficient way to make a change. Because what I saw in politics is that you have all these parties. And obviously, I also had some preferences when it comes to political parties, when I look at their programs. But then I looked what they actually did. So the difference between words and deeds. And then I saw that they were too quick on compromising on their basic core ideals, too quick on giving up on, that ideal of really creating positive change. So for me, it was all like 50 shades of D66. That's the Democratic Party in the Netherlands. They all kind of look like each other. And when you look at their deeds. So I was thinking, like, this is a waste of my time. I don't want to become like that. I cannot change the world in that way. I also then started studying art, culture, and media on a academic level. So it's not that I actually made art. I'm totally not artistic in that way, but in a more philosophical way. So really analyzing art and media, etc. With the idea like if I really get frustrated with all these international relations, and if it really becomes too much, then I can maybe choose to make a change through this culture side. Help artists who are making great artworks who can change the world, help them to market themselves and take their works more into picture. So I was just thinking more in different paths. And eventually I ended up more in like the cultural sector, the film industry. I was working in a museum as well. Also, when I was studying, I was working a lot in a club, an alternative club with a lot of rock music and alternative music, which really helped me deal with a lot of different people. Like if you come to such a club as I worked in, you really deal with all kinds of people, all different backgrounds. So that really helped me shape my personality and basically become better in what I do. But how I turned into real politics it had to do with two things. My girlfriend, I have a girlfriend. She really liked cats, animals in general. I never had any kind of feelings about animals in general. I definitely didn't like cats at all. I thought they were scary and arrogant. But because I love my girlfriend, I told her, look, okay, if you want to take two cats in the house from a how do you say, like a shelter, then we can take two and see how it goes. That shelter offered sort of a tryout period of 2 weeks, and if wasn't click, you could return them. And I was thinking, we'll do those 2 weeks, and then I can say, we tried, it really isn't good click, and we return them. But I don't know, for the people listening at home and who have pets, you know how that works. They just conquer your heart, and you're helpless. So that's what happened with me. The two cats, and one is here sitting with me. This is the one of the reasons that I went into politics. But the two cats, really like opened my eyes. I like analyzed them as like an anthropologist, and I saw they were like real individuals with their own kind of traits and things they do. I did never realize that before about animals that have like their own characters. So long story short, purely philosophically, I was thinking like, okay, if I now like these cats and I give, I want the best for them, I treat them well, etc. Why I don't want the same for all those other animals, pigs, chickens, cows, that I only see on my plate? What is the philosophical moral difference? Just a very rational question to myself. And I couldn't answer that question. There was no difference. So when you cannot answer that question, then either you accept that you're a hypocrite or you change. And then I was like, I can try to change. Why should I contribute to killing all these animals and torturing them if it's not necessary for my own health, survival, or whatever? So I tried first vegetarian, which worked surprisingly quickly. And it helped that my girlfriend was already a vegetarian, so kind of blended well together. And after that, we started to try the totally plant-based, so vegan, without any animal products. And that took more effort because product like cheese, I ate it every day. But the cheese is it's very addicting. And there's this ingredient in it that is addictive. So it's not easy to get rid of cheese. But after a while, I got rid of cheese, and now I don't really miss it. I don't miss it at all, actually. So that's the moment that I opened my eyes through these cats to this world of, wow, okay, so we have this really fucked up system about how we treat other animals and what consequence that has for the world. So we are destroying our planet through our intensive farming, we are destroying our nature, and we are destroying ourselves. Then opened my eyes to Party for the Animals, because let's be honest, I think also people listening right now and hearing about a party existing, and it's called Party for the Animals. I mean, in English, it sounds really cool. It sounds like a party. But yeah, Party for Animal Rights. It sounded really strange to me as well. So I who were very interested philosophically in politics, and who always said, you have to read all the programs. If you can read all the political programs of all parties, you have to read them before you vote. I was always like that, but I never read the Party for the Animals program because I couldn't look past the name. So since the cats, I was also confronted with my own hypocrisy when it comes to that, and I just took the time to read the program, and then it really opened my eyes towards what Party for the Animals is, and that's a very, very proud party. I would dare to say it's the party that has the most broad vision on our whole society and whole the world. It's one of the few parties, maybe the only parties, that looks past what we are doing here in the Netherlands or in European Union, but it really looks on what we are doing here, what kind of impact does that have in other countries where we are, using resources, etc. So it opened my eyes, and then I was like, okay, this is a really good program. It has a really good vision. Vision is important because sometimes parties don't really have a vision. But then that's the most important thing, which I missed in other parties, is the acts. So we were talking about words, and you want to have acts and deeds. And that was the most interesting to me as a political scientist, is that the role of the Party for the Animals in the political landscape is so unique. So beyond these 50 shades of D66, they have this role of being the pacer in the marathon, which, making the rest run faster for a better world. So what they do is, based on science, put a goal on the horizon, and they say, like, look, guys, based on science, we have to go there to keep the planet livable, to have a future for ourselves, etc., etc., and keep pointing at that direction. So never like stray from that direction, always point to that direction. And by doing that, by being consistent in that, you see that the other parties move towards that vision. So the more you repeat it, the more you see that the other parties move towards the direction, the more it's a normal part of the debate. I remember that, let's say 10 years ago, when the party said we have to shrink our number of animals kept in the farming industry, shrink it towards 75%. It was, people couldn't grasp that idea at all. The other politicians were scared, and it was like laughing about that. And the lovely thing is that now, 10 years later, it's become a normal policy option. There are a lot of parties like D66 and Green Left, and even Party for for Labor, and even the new party that we have here, like sort of middle conservative from Pieter Omtzigt. They also want to shrink the number of animals in the farming industry. So that's a very direct result of the Party for the Animals really pushing this. And then another example is the aviation industry. So we have a big airport, which is called Schiphol in Amsterdam. You might know it, of course. But the Netherlands is a small country, and it's really, really crowded. And Schiphol, the airport, is in the middle of that crowded place. And it's polluting, it's causing people to get sick. And it's just, crossing the boundaries of what we need to do to keep our planet safe for ourselves. So it's too bad for the climate and for our nature. So then the logical scientific thing is to think about, okay, what are we going to do with this airport and flying, etc. And then based on science, we said, okay, it's not only enough to keep the airport as it is, so not let it grow, keep it as it is. You have to shrink it even, shrink the amount of flights that go and come back. And the idea of a shrinkage is also very scary for people and politicians. We associate shrinking with something negative. So that the Party for the Animals was the first party that dared to say this. It's just, it tells a lot. And the nice thing is that, again, after a few years, you see that the Green Left and and some other parties are saying the same thing, and it's even become one of the normal policy options for the current government. So yeah, that's how the party. That's a very important role of the Party for the Animals, and that with that you can really make a positive change. And that's, so this whole long story is how I then decided, okay, for this party, I believe that I can really, help change the system really, and not just to play along a political game. This is something really big and historic, and I want to invest my time in this. So I started with helping Party for the Animals on a local level, but my really political function began on a more regional, provincial level in North Holland. So that's a province, North Holland. That's the province where Amsterdam is. I became a representative for the Dutch Party for the Animals there. So now I'm still that representative there, and I've been that for 5 years. I'm the leader of that local party as well. But yeah, now they put me on the Dutch national list, and I'm very glad they did, because I want to make the biggest impact possible, and on a national level you can do more.
Yeah, exactly. They put you on number 2, so it's like also that shows how Party trusts you in this.
Yeah, it's an honor.
And also, I need to put as Amstelveen residents, the city next to Amsterdam and also next to Schiphol. Like if to the people they want to check the map. For me the most difficult part living next to Schiphol is literally the noise, because you can literally hear every plane. Most of the time it's like going somewhere. So basically, you can check on the plane radar what kind of plane is going. Yeah. But yeah, it's the most annoying part living basically next to the biggest airport in the Netherlands.
Exactly, and the science shows that it has a lot of impact on your mental state and your physical state eventually. So it's just really bad. And I think that the lovely thing is about Party for the Animals is in policies they always put the well-being of humans and other animals first within the ecological boundaries. I think that's a very nice, how do you say, lead to have when you want to decide, okay, what are we going to vote, or what kind of policies are we going to make, to always put the well-being of humans and other animals first.
We saw that the Party for the Animals has around 5% in the polls right now. So you're gonna improve your result from 2021, which we wish you do. But let's say that you are elected for the parliament, and what are your main points that you can, what are the action that you can take as a member of the parliament, like working in the commissions, for example, or what is your vision for your term in the parliament?
Yeah, that's a good question, and there's so much to fix, I think, and it's because there is so much to fix that already tells you that the whole system, and it has to do a lot of with our economic system, the way we do economics. But all really needs to fundamentally change. So I would work on that, but to make it a little less abstract. First of all, the money that we spend as government needs to be more efficiently and effectively spent. Because if we say that we want to fix the climate crisis and the nature crisis, which are both going on right now, to keep the planet livable, then you want to spend the money that we have for that in a most effective and efficient way. So you don't throw away money. Problem is that the money is being thrown away right now because we have a couple of billions of euros of citizens' money being put into fossil industry. We have a couple of 100 millions of euros being put into intensive farming industry, which is destroying our planet. That is inefficient and ineffective way of spending public money. So the first thing I want to do is move the financial waves from investing in polluters towards investing in society and a more healthy planet. I think that's one of the core things that need to happen. You've seen that the previous governments have made it more difficult for, let's say, the average person living in the Netherlands, and especially the people on the bottom when it comes to what they are earning. They made it things more expensive for them. Subsidies that are available for making your house more climate friendly, for example, are especially available for the more high income people instead of the people that need it most. So this is like everything that you don't need to do when you want serious climate and nature policies. You're making people who really want a livable planet. You make it impossible for them to support you in any kind of policies because you are just making the wrong decisions and you are pampering the big industries, the big companies, instead of helping people go forward and investing in companies that are actually doing good work there. And those are more middle or small companies that are really trying to reinvent themselves and invent new business models which are not contributing to the destroying our planet, but contributing to a better world. And that can happen. The problem is that most of the political parties and politicians cannot imagine a system which works for us and our planet, instead of just destroying it. And so that's these moves of financial budgets. That's very important. And another part of what I think it's important is changing our agricultural system. We talked about this before, not only because of the animals, which is very, very important to say, because we are in the Netherlands only, we kill 500 million animals per year, more than 500 million animals per year. 500 million animals per year. Those are sentient beings, most of them with certain intelligence. Pigs are very intelligent beings, but 99% of them don't ever see the light of day, except when they die, transported to slaughterhouses. It's horrible. But then that's a moral thing. But next to that, this same industry is one of the biggest contributor to climate crisis. It's also contributing to the nature crisis. For example, because all these animals that I talked about need to be fed, right? They need to be fed, and they eat a lot, I can tell you. And they eat a lot more than a human. So how do you feed these animals? You have to grow crops. You have to grow crops usually on land that can also be used to feed humans directly. instead of feeding animals. So what is happening is, first of all, there's a lot of land, nature being cleared. For example, in the Amazon area, there is nature, there are woods being cleared for the production of animal feed, which is mainly soya.
Basically for soya, yeah. Is that
Yeah,
Brazil
yeah.
is the biggest importer of soya in the world.
The Netherlands, yeah. And Brazil is the exporter, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, exporter, yeah. Sorry, exporter, yeah. And the Netherlands is importer, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So exactly. And that's good that you know. Some people confuse this. They think that this soy is for, vegetarians or vegans drinking soy milk. But that's not the case. Most of the soy is for soy feed. And that's a real huge problem. It's destroying our nature, and that worsens the climate crisis and our chances of survival. And most of the land is used for these animal feed. So you are using land ineffectively. It's contributing to world hunger because we are not using our land effectively. When the Ukraine war broke out, there was a lot of food issues. Ukraine was one of obviously the hotspots of how do you say grain resources in the world, in Europe, and a lot of, for example, North African countries were also dependent on that grain for their basically bread. So I know people living in North Africa who were in real big crisis then, when also Ukrainian war broke out. But the thing is, once the export of Ukrainian grain was started again, you can guess where the first ships went with that grain. They didn't went to feed those people. They went to our livestock industry to feed the animals. And this is the complete and absurd situation and system that we have built. And this is what no other party talks about. Well, now more party do, because we've been telling this for 20 years. So now it kind of like sinks in more parties. But this is like fundamental change of the system that we built. That's what I want to work on. And it's really necessary because, otherwise we're screwed.
So we gonna wrap up our interview in a moment, but I have one last question, because in the Netherlands, as we all know, the coalitions are very, very important to build a government. Sometimes the coalitions have 3, 4, or even 5 parties. And do you think that Partij voor de Animals would be a part of a coalition government, for example, with GroenLinks PvdA? Would it be a possible scenario to have like broader progressive coalition instead of the more conservative one?
Yeah, basically, if I can add something to what Krzysztof said, because, for example, in Poland, we just had the parliamentary election to the both chambers in Poland, and one of the, like a coalition / party in the opposition, the Citizen Coalition, that's kind of interesting because they have now in the parliament people from the Green Party, but also from the Agro-Unie. So it's literally like Dutch BBB, so the party for the farmers. And they are like from the 2 different spectrum of the politics about the animal rights. But yeah, it's literally what Krzysztof said. So imagine scenario, Ines, Frans Timmermans can be a prime minister, and he make literally already the coalition conversation with Peter Omtzigt with a new social contract. And they said like, okay, Esther, Ines, what do you think to join us? But of course, for example, but don't talk too much about the tulips, because the tulips are the symbol of the Netherlands, and you don't want to have a tulips on the Museumplein anymore in Amsterdam, because that's what I read on the newspaper. That's also Partij voor de Animals they want. Maybe don't talk too much about the Gaza situation, and so for what you can agree, like to don't maybe talk, or like to this agenda can be like put on the side for a moment maybe, but for what is the most important and for which condition you can join to the possible left maybe government. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think it's also a moral question. You're talking about tulips. It sounds really ridiculous, of course, when you say, oh, you don't want tulips. Obviously, the tulips really look nice. Everybody loves tulips, so most people love tulips. It's a very toxic, literally toxic industry. So it's polluting our soil, it's polluting people, it's making people sick because of the pollutions that, how do you say, toxic that is used to grow the tulips. So, you have to just be honest about that. You have to be honest about that. So if Frans Timmermans says to me, don't talk about that, then I would say to him, Timmermans, let's talk about that, because it's important. You presented yourself as a progressive leader that wants to lead this country, who has a vision, that wants to help people, wants to solve a lot of problems that we have, to want to solve nature and climate crisis. You cannot solve that if you're not being honest to people. So I would say to Timmermans, let's be honest to people. And I think that we will get support for that when we are honest. But most of the politicians are not honest to people. So that's one of the really clear red lines I would draw. You have to be honest to people, otherwise it will backfire to you. And the PvdA, the Labour Party that Frans Timmermans is originally from, they experienced this before. They have contributed for decades to the same system that we are living in. So Frans Timmermans, if he wants to be a trustworthy, believable new leader, he has to also, not only talk green, but do green. And I think that the new generation knows this. So what I would do, the first question was, would you go into a coalition with Timmermans? I would say in first, when you first asked me, I would say yes. I would say yes if we can really work on fixing the crisis that we are in, because you cannot compromise on, are we going to fix the crisis or not? It is literally going to kill us if we don't fix it on time. It will cause a lot of more damage than any kind of thing that we have experienced till now. It will cost a lot of human lives. It's already costing a lot of human lives in other parts of the world. So you cannot make compromises on that. We need to take big steps towards fixing the climate and nature crisis, and we need to do it compassionately, which means that we need to help people who are not able to afford some basic stuff, and make the polluters pay instead of deciding what policy should be. So those are the clear red lines: human rights, compassion, and fixing the crisis. And if we can do that together, yes, please, I would love that. I mean, I'm in the Netherlands, in the Noord-Holland, in the province. I'm constantly pushing the Green Party and the Labour Party and the E66 to, work together and make the policies better. That's what I do most of the time. That's what costs me a lot of time, but it's worth it. And so yes, please, we will go into a coalition if we get fix that together. And if that doesn't work, if the Labour Party makes the same mistakes as they did in history, then we will try to work together with them from the position of opposition, and we will try to keep them sharp and make them do better in their position of coalition. We'll try to help them move the good way. So that's it. I'm not here to play any political games. I don't care about becoming a minister or whatever. I just want a better place for us all. That's basically it.
So the things that you're saying are reminding me the situation that we are having right now in Poland after the elections. That our leader Tusk, he was also a prime minister before, and his government was very controversial, and he's going to be the prime minister right now. And our situation is a little bit shifted to the right in Poland, so we actually from the very conservative nationalists to liberals. But as we say, we're going to have also broad government with also politicians like you who want a real change, and it's going to be a lot of to compromise, because there's going to be a lot of Christian Democrats and liberals in that government. So it's very, very similar, but you have this little bit more to the left and to the progressive side. But yeah, that's what I noticed, and that's gonna happen with us. Yeah, Patrick, we wanted to say. Oh, Ines, do you want to add something?
Yeah, and it's up to the progressives as well, because you can prove the conservatives and can say a lot about them, but it's us, the progressives, have control over our own actions. So it's up to us, to really hold fast to the things that we hold dear, to not compromise too much on the basics like the human rights, because eventually you will lose the trust of people. And that is very damaging for politics, and that does have a very, very, very nasty impact. So I hope we can, as progressives, work together to really make steps that would be really nice and refreshing.
Basically, I have the last question. So, as a resident of the Netherlands and also as a European Union citizen, I can vote here for three different elections, for 5 in total. Yeah, I cannot vote for the Tweede Kamer, I cannot vote for the provincie, but I can vote for the Waterschappen, for the water boards. I did from the gemeente, from the local election. I did, and in the next year there will be the Euro Parliament election. I assume the Partij voor de Dieren will be in the run, but probably the most of the parties, they are now in the run. They will be in the Euro Parliament. Yeah. So my biggest problem, to be honest, with the Partij voor de Dieren policy, because also I'm vegetarian, I have 2 pets. I have a dog and cat. So also the Partij voor de Dieren is very close to me. But my biggest problem with your party, Ines, it's the view of the nuclear power plants, because by scientific research and by our own knowledge, the nuclear power plants are the cheapest and the most safe energy what we can have. We have this kind of energy in Netherlands, not the big one, because it's nothing to do with, for example, with what France have. But also in the other case, we have a Germany that Netherlands have a border, and what they did in the last few years, they closed the nuclear power plants and they put everything on coals. Doesn't make any sense for me, but this is the German politics. So why PvdD has so much still problem with the nuclear power plants? Because as we know, and also from the last debates, for example, with the Frans Timmermans and Peter Omtzigt, Frans Timmermans is like more 50-50. Maybe we can do this, maybe not. Peter Omtzigt is very pro-atom. Basically, that's funny thing, because the right-wingers party in the Netherlands, or centric party, they are more pro-atom than the left. In Poland, it's literally mixed, because also left and also right, they are pro-atom, and also left, also right, they are against atom. So could you explain me and Krzysztof and people they are listening us, what is the main problem for you as a party with the nuclear power plants, with the atom energy?
If may I add, what would be the solution if not atom? What would you say that should be the most the best energy source for the Netherlands?
Yeah, that's very good. That's a really good question. I think there is a lot of opinions about this, and the scientific opinion is not that as a consensus as you just sketched, because the current Dutch government has made a study from experts, and to advise them on what policy they should follow on this nuclear energy. And the experts said in the Netherlands, so specifically in the case of the Netherlands, with all this being small and built and crowded, it's first of all it's too late, and it's too expensive. It's a bad idea because of all these things to build it in the Netherlands. So even when you disregard of what the possible positive or negative things are of nuclear power. According to experts, it's a bad idea to build it in the Netherlands. So that's one thing. The other thing is that, I don't know if you know the term of red herring, but nuclear power is used by the right and the conservatives as a distraction from what we actually can do in a more short term to really fix the crisis that we have. Even if you would start building nuclear power plants right now, you would have to build thousands of them all over Europe. Each of them costs billions. Each of them costs time. And if you do it in a democratic system, and I don't know if you know the England situation, the Dutch are very, very critical about what happens in their backyard. So when you put a windmill with turbine in their backyards, they will protest, they will sue you, they will go to every possible judge to stop that windmill put there with the wind turbine. What do you think will happen when there is actually a decision to put somewhere in the already crowded Netherlands? There is no space to put it anywhere, like far from the population. What do you think it will happen when that decision is made? There are processes, democratic processes here in the Netherlands. People will use those processes to maximally slow down that process. So if we focus on this as the big solution, we will be screwed. We will not solve the climate crisis on time. We will not solve the nature crisis because, and that's another level of discussion in this, only focusing on energy when we talk about solving the climate crisis and the nature crisis is just a big mistake. It's not scientific. The IPCC, which is about climate, right? The scientists on UN level, and the IPBES, that's like the IPCC sister, but it's focused on biodiversity. They came together and they said, okay, we have two crises, guys. Most of you know about the climate crisis, but there is also this biodiversity crisis, which I call nature crisis because it's shorter. And they said, okay, we have these two crises, and the nature crisis is as big, maybe even bigger than the climate crisis. So what we need to do now is fix those crises together. So every investment that we make in a solution or in more solutions needs to work towards directions into fixing both crises at the same time. Which means if you invest in one solution, it shouldn't damage the other. It shouldn't worsen the other crisis. For example, if we are talking about wind turbines, it's not a bad idea to put wind turbines, but you can think about how you build wind turbines, with which material, where you place them, and how you make them work, so as they can cause as least damage as possible to nature, maybe even bring a plus towards nature. So think smart about the solutions that we have, and the solutions have to contribute towards solving the nature crisis and climate crisis. And focusing only on letting that dominate the whole debate, which is now really the tactic of conservative and rights, let's focus on the nuclear power because that's something that the left doesn't dare to touch. No, but that's simplifying the huge problems that we have. And we have a water crisis. The Netherlands has the worst water quality in Europe because, we talked about the tulips. That's one of the big problems. It's our industry, the livestock industry. You will not solve that huge problem with focusing on nuclear energy. You will not solve the energy problem as well because you can on a earth that has limits, you cannot focus on rolling limitlessly. And this vision of nuclear power having cheap and almost endless energy is just pushing the fantasy of endless economic growth on a planet that just has borders, that has limited capacities. It's one of the worst myth that has been created, that we can endlessly grow. And this idea of nuclear power just facilitates that. The first thing that we have to do, and that's where we have to invest more in, is to save power. Because if you save power, you don't need to create it. You don't need to make any more energy. And there is a law in the Netherlands since 2008, from the top of my head, which obligates bigger companies to save energy. This law has not been turned into practice because the government refuses to actually follow up on it. So give, for example, punish companies who don't follow that law.
You mean boeten? It's fee.
Boeten. Yeah. So there is a law. Companies have to oblige to it, but there is no follow up on it, because, like I said in the beginning, these governments are protecting the wrong actors. They're protecting the big companies while they are punishing the small people. If I or you don't pay your taxes, or you drive past a red light, obviously you will be punished. But the big guys don't get punished for basically not complying with the law that's existing for a lot of years. So this saving energy is one of the biggest parts of the solution that we have to make. And I think that there is a lot of, Tesla, obviously, Nikola Tesla, the Balkan genius. I think he knew the potential of solar energy, for example. And I think there is a lot more potential there, but we have to be smarter in that, and we can be more environmentally friendly with that. And that's the cheapest energy that we could eventually, I think, make. But it begins with realizing that the problems that we have are much, much bigger than only the energy crisis that we have. It's about water. It's about our soul. It's about pollution in the air. It's about a lot of things that will not be solved by only focusing on nuclear energy. So please, guys, don't be distracted by the red herring, and just vote for politicians that know what's important, that we need to change the system, this total blind focus on economic growth. And this is just a distraction.
I think this is a very good dot for our interview, Ines. Thank you for that very long, but I think shows to our audience what kind of Netherlands Partij voor Dieren wants for everyone lives in Netherlands. Krzysztof, do you have anything to add?
No, I don't think I have anything to add. I'm very, very thankful that you shared all your opinions on all your stories with us and with our audience. We very appreciate that. Thank you, and I wish you good luck in the elections.
Thank you.
We will with Patrick follow this topics as it is going to approach, Ines,
could you promise us if you will be in the Tweede Kamer after 22 of November, do you want to come back to our podcast and give the other interview, maybe as a part of the government, maybe? Because that will be something like, also to introduce how is looks the real politics now, yeah? And on the government level, not on the local level.
Of course, I would gladly do that. And I hope that people who can vote actually vote for us. It would be great. The stronger we get, the greener, more social and more animal friendly the other parties will get. We'll push them the right way, in the right direction. So I hope so. And also I also work for an international organization, which I will stop doing that after the elections if I go to the Dutch parliament. But for all the Polish people listening, there is this organization called Green Rev. It's a Polish organization, but it works internationally. And it's just really cool. It's focused on human rights, animal rights, and protecting our planet. So if you don't know them yet, check them out. Green Rev. It's a Polish organization, and it works on a European level as well. So check them out, and maybe it will inspire you to maybe also start your own party, maybe a party for the animals in Poland.
Yes, that would be great. We will provide the link to the organization that you mentioned in the description below the video. Yes, I think Polish, because to end, we had the election as we said, and the Greens are like, so the party that it's like the closest to the ideals that you have, and they're like below 1% in like the whole coalition, because they started as a part of the broader coalition, and they have 3 members out of 460. So yes, in Poland we had like lots of problems with the environment, and the green movement is basically non-existent. Also, our left has some ecological
basically the
points.
Basically
Yes.
the few current deputies from the Partij Razem, it's mean together in English, they used to be part of the Green, but they resigned and they make their own party. Now they have 6 people in the 7 people in the 7 people in the Tweede Kamer, I mean in the second chamber. It's insane. And 2 people in Senate, 2 women in Senate.
Yes, but
right.
I would say it's still like not enough. Looking at all those issues that we have, we are obviously like bigger country, like more spread out, but also have the problems with air pollution, with the water quality. We had the catastrophe on Odra River last year that a lot of fish died. There is like a lot of stuff. So maybe I wish we will push this narrative, as you said, to make Poland as well more sustainable. All right.
Hope so.
So yeah, guys, thank you. You listen our podcast, our first episode in English about Dutch politics, and our guest was Ines Kostić, the numbers 2 on the Partij voor Dieren list for the Tweede Kamer. You can say Ines bye to people if you want.
Sorry, I thought you were closing. Okay, well, thank you so much, guys, for having me, and it was a really nice conversation. And hi to your listeners. I hope to meet you in the field. Hope to meet you in the Netherlands, in Poland, somewhere in the world. And let's fight together for a better world.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you very much, and see you next time.
See you.
Bye-bye.